This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. I'd like to introduce to the show today Nolan Del Campo.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And Lindsay McBrayer.
Hey.
Good morning. All right. Well, I keep hearing back from this Caspaw guy on my comments, and of course he always alludes to his person of interest, but he never really gives me a clue as to who it is. Today I got a partial name, so he sent saying, "I'm glad that you brought up all these other murders in Texas because my person of interest, I think, is responsible for a lot of unsolved murders as well. That's why I asked what Jack's last name was. Maybe Jack is the same person that I'm talking about, Bill."
I don't think so.
I still want to know who this
Where's
person
that
is.
That's like Iranian or something.
Casbah, I think, is just his scream name. I've seen Kaz the Clown. I've seen, I think that, Lindsay, you saw one of his podcasts. He was hiding in a tent or something like that.
Yes. And like he was saying how that people were watching him and he was hiding out. And I was like, what is going on with this dude?
Yeah, he looked like he had created himself a sheep fort.
So maybe he can, if he's watching, he can tell us a little bit more about that.
I think
Stop
we should
it,
rock the Casbah. Don't rock the Casbah.
Don't rock the Casbah.
Yeah.
Well, he also goes on to say, a lot of people say there's no way that one man could commit so many murders, but I believe one man committed a ton of murders, over 100 murders. Well, good Lord, haven't we said that a million times? And the 1986 letter says 100 plus all over California and Nevada. We're just silly to think that it's isolated to just those two areas. But like I had indicated when I sent back to him, the Texas Rangers couldn't have attempted to close over 200 cases across the country on one person unless it was possible that one person could have committed all those crimes, right?
Right.
So,
well, Texas Rangers didn't do their job, if you asked me. They just wanted to close the cases. They didn't care if it was justice or not.
No, of course.
Well, yeah, and they still do that, I feel like, a lot around the country. So it's kind of a pattern.
Well, I think with D'Angelo, they pinned a lot of stuff on him that he may not have been.
Right. Just blanket, push it underneath. Yep. I actually received back a letter from the Humanity for Prisoners on the wrongful conviction case of Peter Wilson. So I basically sent it out to a whole bunch of people, kind of like I did with the Zodiac, with Dennis and I, going to different law enforcement agencies. And I actually reached out to Julie Watts of CBS 13 News. She's an investigative reporter. She reached back out to me and asked for additional information, but I've not heard anything since. So I'm not sure if she is working on it, if she's round filed it or what she's done. The letter that I got from the Humanity for Prisoners, and this is kind of the response you get from people. They just don't either have the time or wherewithal. But it says, "Dear Miss Bartow, please forgive me for this late response to your letter of June 10th. It had been misfiled." Okay. "I'm not sure that I can do anything to assist in preparing a writ of habeas corpus for Mr. Wilson, but I'd like the record to show that I completely support the effort and I am convinced he is an innocent man. Thank you for your work on this project."
Yeah. So on Wilson, at the second trial, was represented by a public defender?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, well, the public defenders always do a notice of appeal on a felony matter. It's required for their job. And every convicted felon in California is entitled to appeal by right, as long as you do the notice of appeal. So he must have had an appeal, but he's not getting back to us on that issue. Because I'd like to look up his appeal and read why it was denied.
Well, it hasn't been denied, and he did file the writ of habeas.
No.
Yeah, the writ of habeas
years ago.
Exactly.
So if he's at the habeas stage, that means he's already gone through the appeal stage.
Right. Well, and again, based on the limited amount of information and evidence that he had at that time, his exculpatory evidence was missing. There was missing police files. His blood splashed all over the scene by the officer. It looked like he did it. I mean, what was there to appeal? I think that appeal only amounts to whether or not the court violated any of his rights or broke any laws in their attempt to convict him, right?
Or the prosecutor, and some of the stuff we've shown on this show shows that there was a lot of wrongful action by the prosecutor, who later became a judge.
And I don't think the public defender was probably had his teeth into it like he should have. I don't think that he. I don't even think that from the public defender's office, the appeal itself, it gets assigned to an appellate panel attorney. Depending, that would be the Bay Area, so that would be CCAP in Sacramento. They have a different name in San Francisco, but it's an appellate project, and it's so it would go to a panel attorney to do the appeal. Right, but the thing is we have no idea if his attorney didn't even do the job the first time around in court, asking for the right forensics, asking for the results on various different things like the cigarette butt or the semen or the, any of this stuff. If he wasn't asking for that stuff in court, and of course, like we said, in the second round, she had all of that stuff squashed. So the jury wasn't even hearing third-party culpability. Literally, they were just fully deciding on whether or not he was guilty based on his blood being at the crime scene.
Yeah. Well, there's also, you can always argue ineffective assistance of counsel at the trial level.
Right. But again, without knowing all the things that he knew, that he knows now, he didn't get most of this information and didn't realize.
Later. That's why he still might have a chance on the habeas.
And gosh, I feel like he's applied for this over a year, almost maybe even 2 years now. It seems like it's been going on for a minute. But while I was at it at the same time, I've been cleaning out my office, installing new cabinets again, and came across these business cards over here, which I thought were interesting. There's one from Aphrodite Jones up there in the left-hand corner from when we did the episode on true crime. The Zodiac. And then I found the city of Napa, Todd Schulman. He's a detective for the Napa Police Department. And then Pat McMahon, deputy sheriff for Napa County Sheriff's Department. Dennis and I met with these two individuals, and of course they had just been given grant money by the either the state or the government in order to go back and look at some cold cases. But they had indicated they had more evidence in other cases that they were going to spend the money there trying to solve those. I wish I would have known what those cases were and how they actually disposed of those cases, whether or not they actively used that money for what it was supposed to be used for. Either way, they just kind of looked at us and said, no, well, okay, have a nice day. So I basically gave them my handwriting rundown, and then we were out the door and never heard from them again. So they obviously weren't any more interested in investigating this case than the San Francisco PD was.
That's crazy. It's weird how law enforcement doesn't want to go back and admit that they missed something if it's old, a cold case. They hate admitting that they did a poor job way back in the day when the crime went down.
And I don't understand the resistance at all, because when I went back, it was just a couple years ago, I did the Friction Ridge fingerprint class at the Napa Sheriff's Department, and I spoke with the gal that ran the forensics in the fingerprint department, and she was interested in taking a look at it. She asked her boss, or one of the cold case detectives, whether or not we could look at the fingerprints in comparison to the one, the right thumbprint that we have of Jack on his military records, and she was shot down with a hard no.
Wow.
why? We're willing to do it. We're willing to look at it. Like you this is no sweat off your guys' balls. You're not having to put out any resources for this. Like literally, we're willing to do this, and we're just being shot down, even being given the evidence necessary to do it. And it just blows my mind. But all in all, kind of the same response we got there from that project, right? The FBI pretty much said the same thing to me. Nobody else is going to do this, Nanette, and we don't have the resources. Okay, so I've done it. Now what are we going to do with it?
Really?
So this brings us back to April 19th of 1992. Jack is at a family gathering for Easter. We don't see Nora and Charles in these pictures. There's no mention of them. This again is this year that Jack and Nora are separated. Nora's back in California with Charles, and Jack is in Texas, basically at his mom's house. So we see pictures of Flova's house on the far right over here. This is the one on Shady Oaks, and then Chubb's place in Seguin. And this is approximately 45 minutes from Dale, Texas, which I believe is where the Shady Oaks house is. And on May 7th,
in the third photo, who's the man?
That says, I think it says Scott. So Granny and Scott, Chubb's house, Easter 1992, Texas.
Okay, and Scott is what relation?
I want to say that's Chubb's son, and I think that Chubb's. I mean, I'm not sure if it is Flova's brother. He looks about to be Jack's age, so I'm wondering if he's a cousin, and maybe Gary or one of the family members that reach out to me every now and again is watching this episode and will be able to tell us who these individuals are in play. I thought Chubb's was Chuck, who died, but it turns out I had them confused. So Chubb's is different than Chuck. Chuck is Jack's brother who died, and we read his eulogy not too long ago in the presentation. We do have another I-70 murder on May 7th of 1992. Sarah Blessing in St. Louis, Missouri at a strip mall gift shop in broad daylight. Witnesses confirmed sighting in Wichita, and the ballistics confirmed that all of the I-70 murders are connected by the bullets to be the same killer. So we know it is the same person that's hopping around doing this. We do see an envelope for Nora Terrence where the address of Sunrise Avenue has been crossed out, and now it has the St. Patrick Court in Citrus Heights, which is where she is at the time. This address has not been established for Jack based on any of the information I have. So again, this confirms the breakup. Let's see. Okay, so the St. Patrick Court turns out to have been Dennis's address. So this envelope is coming from the law offices of Racy Estabrook, and it shows that he's a personal injury and criminal law attorney, but I don't know what business Nora has with him at this time. Then we hop back over to Texas, and we see Jack at a reunion in Peacock, Texas on July of 92. This is where we see Chubb's up here in the left-hand picture. Where is my... Oh, there you are. Chubb's is up here on this left-hand side of the picture, and we have Jack over here on the right side. I noted his barrel-chested body frame here because as we climb into 1996, it is one of the witnesses' statements in regards to a possible suspect with John Benet Ramsey, but we see the weight that Jack has put on. So Jack has supposedly only finished 8th grade, so I'm not sure how he's at this reunion, whether it's Chubb's reunion, but he seems to be familiar with all the individuals. So he notates Jake and Bill, Peacock reunion, and then Jake and Bill again over here. So he knows some of these people, and we see Jack standing behind him right there. He knows these individuals, so maybe he did go to this school with them. But again, his records show that he only finished up to 8th grade, so I don't know what kind of reunion this would be. Peacock, Texas is not that big. As a matter of fact, Jack listed in one of these pictures up here, we can see that the whole downtown had what looked like 4 businesses. Well, it's huge. So it said 1 store was left open 2 days a week, secondhand and antique. In Peacock, Texas reunion, G.A. Bradford's widow has a store, was a grocery until G.A. died in 1991. And now it literally has a population of about 125 people in this entire town, almost like just basically dwindling down to nothingness. Well, I get it. There's no stores, there's no gas stations, there's no nothing here, it looks like.
No restaurants.
No. And it's
McDonald's.
Right? Not even a McDonald's. You got to drive 10 miles in the snow.
You can't hit a golf ball without hitting a Starbucks up here.
Right? I'm dying laughing. So I had my grandkids this last weekend, and my granddaughter was saying to me, she goes, Nene, if you let this thing time out, and she's talking about the TV, Netflix, anything streaming, basically. She said, if you don't catch it and press that you want to continue, it will actually kick you completely out. And then you have to log all the way back in and go all the way back to where you were and blah, 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 blah. And I felt myself having that 5 mile in the snow barefoot walk conversation with her, but it went something like this. I'm like, girl, back in my day, we could turn the TV on and it would stay on all day long.
And now you watch TV and it's a joke.
Well, your TV, I think, even senses when you are in the room and when you're not, and will literally like a computer go to sleep on your butt.
I think that there is evidence of the Samsung smart TVs for sure. 100%. They know they can do that.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and that's what I have. Lucky me. Woo-woo.
I know, I have one too. Yep, but I didn't even discover that until I'd already bought it. So I was like, well,
right.
I have one too. But it's a plasma. It's about 20 years old.
Oh, yeah. Yours isn't timing out on you. You can turn it on. It's going to stay on.
It's in the master bedroom.
But that's things our children are never going to know of, You turn a TV on and the TV stays on. What? Mine likes to also time out at 2 hours for whatever the reason. So if I don't grab the remote to attempt to stop it from timing out, it'll give me a 60-second counter. And if I don't find that remote quick enough, everything shuts off.
That's not cool.
It's control, right?
It's literally
more busy work.
It's saying we're smarter than you are, or we know better for what's good for you than you do.
Yeah. Well, and they make it out to be something that's good, but in reality, it's not.
Juan is learning us right now. He says it's a setting, you can change it.
I still think that they still know.
Right?
Even if the setting is off,
Well, Jack seems to be awfully busy this particular year, and how he's traveling and how he's getting around, I am not quite sure. I know that he was fighting for his disability still at this point, but now we see him in a plane, and he writes on the back of it, Loon Lake, 82292, altitude 35,000 feet. Now, I like to bring this one up because this is something that D.B. Cooper did when he called out Tacoma and the Air Force Base in D.B. Cooper. He stated they were at 26,000 feet and he knew the location of Tacoma Lake. So to see this picture, which of course you can kind of barely tell it, but there's the lake right dead center of the picture. He's at, and he knows how he knows. I don't know, because I'm pretty sure they don't have those nifty screens on the back of the seats for you to stare at to see where you're flying. Like we got to see when we were going to Ireland, and it told you your altitude. It told you how fast you were going, how many miles you'd gone, and how many miles till you get there. I'm pretty sure in 1992 they didn't have that, but somehow Jack knew at 35,000 feet. Let's see. So yeah, Lake Tacoma at 20,000 feet is what D.B. Cooper said, near the Air Force Base, which was another thing that he had quoted. And Loon Lake was that lake in specific that Dennis talked about, that in early 1980s, Jack would take him and his friend and drop him off and be gone for days and week at a time. So
yeah,
now
it's up towards Tahoe, right?
I want to say, well, let's see, Loon Lake.
Well, it's up either 80 or 50. It might be up 80, but yeah.
We can see it right here. So yeah, it looks like it might be up 50 because you're going towards South Lake Tahoe right there.
Yeah,
And here's
okay.
Loon Lake. Yeah. It's about 2 hours from Sacramento.
Okay.
So again, I believe that this picture that he's quoting, the 35,000 feet over Loon Lake, indicates he's coming into or leaving out of California. So I'm not exactly sure if this is coming in or if this is leaving, but we do show a picture where he states that he's visiting Dennis Charles at Dennis's house on St. Patrick Court. We just talked about that address in Citrus Heights, summer of 1992, though it didn't give me a precise month. We know that this also again confirms that Jack and Nora are not together. And I wanted to emphasize something. I have two sets of diaries for Nora, one for 1993, which is this going to talk about this move into Arizona, and one for 1996. And I found it rather odd that these were the only 2 years that Jack would have kept if he was keeping her diaries. But both of these relate to or are indicators of upcoming crimes and things that have occurred. So, this says the year of 1993, but it's actually ending with November 1st. And it says Jack and Nora gets back together in California, and she returns to Texas with Jack per her diary, and they return to Texas by November 4th. We do see a cable bill that Jack is paying from August through February of 1993, which indicates that he is at the Shady Oaks lot in Texas with Flova. So all of that stuff is coinciding. And now at this point in time, we see Jack and Nora getting back together. That brings us to our first murder in Phoenix, Arizona. And the reason why I indicate that it's interesting that 1993 was a year of her diary that he kept, because it really tracks where they are going and what they're up to. But this murder is probably another one of those gruesome ones like Black Dahlia. It was a 22-year-old. It was in a park. She took a bike ride. The bike is missing. It says, I don't know why I put in there a reason for pointing out a bike, but South Carolina murders, California, and another Arizona murder all included bikes. The headless body was found in a park south of Cactus Road, which is, like I indicated, the bisection that we saw in Elizabeth Short and the Lipstick and I-45 murders, with partial bones being found in graves of other bodies. The head was found in a stretch of the canal about 2 miles south of where her body was found.
The canal.
The canal. See, this is why I pulled this one in.
Oh my God.
I know. Again, we have the headless boy of Walsh, right? We have another headless individual, and skulls are being found here, there, and everywhere. And we've got Donna Lass's skull found
too. Yep.
Yeah, found on 80 and 20. So it seems to be something that that's exactly why I pulled this in. And the fact that they're getting ready to move to Arizona screams volumes. Wait till we get into that information. Also shows that the abdomen and chest were cut open, which again, that's more Elizabeth Short stuff. I put in here to research Buffalo Bill. I know it's another movie, but for whatever reason, there always seems to be some media play in whatever's going on. The newspaper reads.
Also, I want you guys to watch this weekend real quick. Snake Eyes from, I think it's 1996 movie with Nicolas Cage called Snake Eyes. I watched it last night. Everybody's been talking about it all over social media, and it does tell a lot. So just to stick that in there before I forget.
Okay.
Hello?
Yep.
We lost you. What did you say? Watch what?
Snake Eyes.
Was it
With
just
Nicolas
me that lost
Cage.
everybody?
Yeah,
What?
it's just you. I'm here.
I think she lost hers again.
I can
Yeah,
hear Lindsay.
everything started spinning. Even my own PowerPoint presentation went blank and was spinning. Like everything was buffering on my end. So yeah, I missed it. He says, I hear everyone.
Okay.
I do
What I
too.
gotta
Yeah,
say.
I
Can
see
you
you.
hear
I
us?
hear you. I see your presentation.
Go ahead, Lindsay. Sorry.
So Snake Eyes, I think it's from 1996, and it had the main character is Nicolas Cage in his younger days,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very telling about things that are happening now. So
Yeah, it's always,
yeah,
always
it's a good watch for this weekend if y'all don't have anything to watch.
Snake Eyes. All right. All right, so the newspaper on this gal, Angela Brasso, reads, was beheaded and disemboweled after she left her Northwest Phoenix apartment for a nightly bike ride through Cave Creek Park. Slain was one of the valley's most gruesome killings. It has never been solved. Angela's body was found on her 22nd birthday on a bike trail near Cactus Road and Interstate 17. Her abdomen and chest had been cut open. Her head was found 11 days later in the Arizona Canal between Dunlap and Peoria Avenues. Her Walkman and her purple 21-speed Diamondback bike have never been found. I put in here, I think that this could have been a murder that Jack committed while scouting out the next place that they're going to move to. As we've seen in so many other situations, Jack goes to wherever it is, just like Dennis said. Goes to wherever it is that he's scouting the new place on his own, does his own reconnaissance, if you will, to figure out where they're going to live. I believe that it is possible he commits one murder at that point and then comes back to get the family. And while he's gone and they're, heavily looking for a killer in regards to this body that's back in the other state, they have no idea to even be looking at Jack because he's not even around while the investigation's going on. And within 3 to 6 months, he shows back up and moves into that area.
I find it odd that they never found the bike. You would think the killer wouldn't want to take the bike. It would be stupid.
Well, I'm going to show you here real quick, and I mean the coincidences are fairly heavy when it comes to Jack in these cases, but I believe at some point when we get here into Arizona with the family that Charles ends up getting a bike, and I wish Nora had marked what kind of bike and color it was.
Yeah, that would have been a smoking gun.
Right. Sandy,
well, there's a bike theory in the John Bonet case too. There's a bike theory. I don't know if y'all went down that area
really
of the case. Yeah, there was a theory that they got bikes for that Christmas, but there's some speculation as to what's his name? Her brother riding the bike the night before down the road. But then there's other witnesses that say that he did, and then there's other witnesses say that he didn't. And the bike was but then they turned around and said no, he didn't get this bike for Christmas. It was kind of a lot of back and forth in the case files as far as the family saying that he rode the bike or he didn't ride the bike or he did get a new bike, or was it he already had that bike from his birthday. It was
I see
very
what you're saying.
Yeah,
so not necessarily involved with the murder, just them talking about a bike.
Yeah, but
it's
information.
Kind of suspicious.
Yes. Why would it be important to put out different stories about this bike?
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the night before. Who cares about the night before? What we need to figure out is what happened the night of.
Yeah.
Nah. And honestly, there's several of these cases where the bike has been laid on top of the victims. The bike has been found, X amount of feet away. Same as the cars in some of these cases, blocks to miles away. The suspect has taken the vehicle and left it someplace else. And so basically her bike going missing just means it wasn't found around the body, but she was known to have left off on her bike to go for a ride that night, and the bike is nowhere to be found now. This other murder was a body found in West Pittsburgh, and it shows, the obituary shows November 10th as the date of death. So I'm assuming that it would have had to have been somewhere between the 1st and 10th of November, which I think we've got Jack pretty solid back in Texas with Nora at this point in time. And if anything, he's hopping back and forth to Arizona, which we have some evidence of that as well. So I don't think that this one was necessarily involved with these cases, but Sandy Betts did think that this was possibly committed by the Zodiac. Here's that evidence that we were talking about. So I'm making an assumption when I say this, only because the expiration date on this particular, it's a security guard provisional certificate it's issued by Arizona Department of Public Safety, and it's issued to Jack Terrence. Now, of course, it says 5 of 92 on it is the revision date of this particular provisional license. But it looks to me that it has probably a 2-year it's good for 2 years because it expires on January 25th of 1995, which would indicate that Jack has at least applied for it by January 25th of 1995, which also means, well, and again, this, playing with these dates a little bit here and there, is that he probably had to do a background check. He probably had to put in an application. There were probably things that had to occur in order to obtain this particular provisional license, which suggests that Jack has been frequenting the Arizona area. Either way, we know that he's working in Arizona by March of 95 as a security guard, at least based on the information that I have. So it would suggest that, yes, Jack has been frequenting Arizona more than we know. On January 26th of 1993, 63-year-old Dana E. Empringham, on the 26,000 block of Maplewood Spring, Texas, Montgomery County. It's stated that he was widowed at the time of his death. He used a wheelchair to get around due to a leg injury, but was not confined to it. He operated a gun shop out of his home named DKE Enterprise, Inc., and witnesses saw suspect running from the house to brown Mercury Cougar-type vehicle and leave with the lights off. The law enforcement believes it was a robbery, so may not even be related here to what we have going on with Jack. But I have it in here because it's another Texas murder, and Jack is right next door, basically. And that brings us back to Nora's diary. We had some more interesting reveals in this. It does state that Jack had talked with his mother about moving to Phoenix, Arizona. So this is the first mention on February 20th of Jack actually speaking to his mom about it. So I notated that it's interesting that this woman that's beheaded, disemboweled, and all of these other things is exactly where Jack is talking about on February 20th of moving to. Now, he is stating that he wants to move to Phoenix, Arizona, and that is his goal. That's what he's looking at, but we know that they eventually end up in Flagstaff. And this entry, February 26th, is Jack was to leave next week to Phoenix and me stay here and take care of Granny, Red, and find us a place. So that confirms what Dennis says, that Jack would leave on his own to go look for wherever it is they were going to move to and then come back and move the family with him. 1993 to 1997, Ancestry.com shows Jack in Comanche, Texas, which is 30 miles from Gorman, Texas. But obviously he is in Arizona from 93 to 95 per his own records and Nora's diary. So Ancestry.com can be wrong sometimes.
Oh, I found it to be wrong a lot too.
Well, and they can only piece back together so much. I mean,
well, and that's why it's always good to use multiple sources.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Okay, so here in this particular entry, I guess after Jack had spoke to his mother about moving to Phoenix, Arizona, he asked if she wanted to go. And then, of course, they, I guess they're already recording people on the phone. So this is interesting because it's something Dennis used to do. He's recorded law enforcement several times in their conversations. But they recorded Flova, Jack's mom, talking to one of her friends in regards to this move. And the friend is convinced, or at least trying to convince Flova, that they're trying to take your house, they're trying to take your money, they're trying to make you move. They're basically was conspiring to take all that Flova had and got Flova very upset. So she's having this conversation and it's being recorded by Jack and Nora so they can go back and listen to what she's saying to her friends, which that's just icky. That's and this is 1990. This is 1993, you guys. Phone calls are being recorded. The response to this, though, is what absolutely floors me, because this is just that we know that Jack's not rational. And why else would I have him pegged for the Zodiac killer? But this entry of the diary goes on to say that they headed over to Nell's house, the woman that was trying to convince Jack's mom that he was trying to take advantage of her. And I was blown away to see it says she must have known we were coming because all their cars were there, but no one answered the door. It was a good thing she didn't answer her door. It was Jack was ready to put a fist in her face. Jack took his gun. That's how angry he was.
Wow.
to an old lady's house. That is so irrational. Like you're going to go to an old lady's house with a gun because you didn't like the conversation she had with your mother.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you the easiest tick that would trigger him.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't imagine taking my gun anywhere out of anger. I mean, it's just not something you do.
And it shows you she may have been onto something.
I think she was.
Yeah. Why would he be so mad? If he knew it was falsehoods, he wouldn't be that worried about it. Although he could still be mad. But if he knew some of it was true, then he'd be really mad.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And then to respond in that kind of manner is exactly what we would expect to see out of somebody of the likes of the Zodiac Killer. Very, very hot-headed. Very, like you said, a simple tick just sends him flying. So imagine every time Nora left him and we see all this upticks in murders, people getting killed left and right. So here is the other entry about them preparing to actually move into Arizona. They're talking about picking up Charles's records from school and getting everything going. Her son-in-law, Rick, Mary's husband, is coming into town to help them with this move. So just basically, again, is confirming this forward motion into Arizona. And then on March 11th, 1993, Jack and Nora moved to Flagstaff. Now, of course, Flagstaff is just where they made it to. That was not their intentions. And the diary goes back and forth talking about whether or not they're going to stay, whether or not they're going to move on to Phoenix. Like I think this one says, small rider truck, put a deposit on it. We are moving to Phoenix in a week or so when Rick gets here. So here's this motion for Phoenix, Arizona. But by the time they get there, they ended up actually staying in Flagstaff. So it says Nora indicates in her diary that they're looking for a place to buy. Again, Jack doesn't show any signs of having a job or any income. I don't know where the money is supposed to be coming from. March 13th, they're at 7 a.m. in Deming, New Mexico with one of their friends, Jim Sherbet, on Highway 180. It looks like Nora has relatives, an Uncle Henry that lives in Springerville, Arizona, and relatives Pia and Pete which are cousins, and Aunt Babe, it says, in Flagstaff. So on top of everything else, it turns out that they have family there. It's probably going to be easier for them to move into that area. And I believe what she was complaining about was the cost of rents, which didn't make any sense because they go from saying they want looking for a house to buy to, rent is too high. And so I don't know if they're just cross-referencing the meaning of rent as a house payment, or because some people say my rent when really it's their house payment.
Yeah.
Now, so
and if she was worried about money, she would have definitely, wrote about that. If there was some indication of not having money or being stressed about money, and she would definitely have that in there if he didn't have a job and he didn't have income.
Well, and it does go on to talk about that is in some of these other entries, as far as, like I said, they're going back and forth, didn't want to go to Phoenix all afternoon, but now checked out some places and drove around the town. Once we made up our minds we were going to stay, took the truck back this morning. So like they are back and forth over it, and money does seem to be a concern. Got a Phoenix paper and looked in it after we ate. We sat there a while. Oh, anyways, I wanted to go back because I didn't finish off Charles. I think this is the entry where it talks about Charles having gotten a bike. And of course they're in Arizona already at this point, which is interesting, but it says Green Mountain Sport SPC Hard Rock. That's a little too much information. I do not believe that she put that in here, but I would have to go back to find it.
Flagstaff to Phoenix.
I think it's pretty close.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was too far. I don't know that I ever actually.
I would say 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
I don't know. I just know that in like I said, all of these entries are them going back and forth. So, at the top here, it says trying to decide if we were going to stay here in Flag because the rent seemed to be too high. And our feelings were we should go to Phoenix after all. Nonetheless, so it sounds to me like what they're saying is Flagstaff's rent was too high and that they should be going to Phoenix after all. But then at the very ending of this, it says, Jack said, we are not going anywhere. We are going to stay right here. She says, I was excited once again because I really didn't want to go to Phoenix all afternoon. So
you would think it would be more expensive in Phoenix.
That's what I would have thought. But maybe Flagstaff.
Well, it's obvious that he's avoiding Phoenix for a reason.
Well, but Phoenix may be more urban, right? I mean, Flagstaff might be more
ritzy.
It could have been it could have been a ritzy area. Yeah. I don't know. At any rate, we see Jack here again in his security guard uniform, and this is when he begins working for Arizona University. Now, Dennis's book said to us that then they moved to Washington, Arizona, Texas, and in 1998 they moved back to Sacramento. But what I actually found is that they moved to Texas. So obviously Nora and Jack get back together. They moved to Texas, then to Arizona. And then we're going to find information that shows that Jack ships Nora off to Washington when they leave Arizona because he goes back to Texas to take care of his mom. And Nora and Flova do not get along. So a little bit of an inconsistency with where they went during this time frame from Dennis's book. But I think that we've laid out enough information here to show exactly where they've been. I did find a whole bunch of cursive writing, which is kind of a task for me to have to go back to. Also, some typewritten matters, but these are all letters that were sent to Jack's mom or the hide tanning recipe. This one is Ask Your Instructor, and I want to say that this is in Flagstaff, Arizona, 5/22 of 93. So, I'm not sure if he's taking a course because it does say ask your instructor on top. But it also looks like he's complaining about some issues, says cannot load the general ledger program, tried numerous ways, etc. I'm using DR-DOS 5.0, but tried MS-DOS 3.3. Please either repair, replace, or tell me what I am doing wrong. So it doesn't sound like it's a note to a professor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds more like it's a technical computer issue with possibly what he's doing for work. I'm not sure. Either way, there's a whole bunch
Or he just used that notepad that was supposed to be intended for students.
Right? So use the space below for immediate personal help from your instructor. To ensure a prompt reply to your consultation request, please make your written request as brief and clear as possible. If you have written before about the same question, please be sure to enclose copies of all past correspondence on the subject. In the event you have future questions, we are closing another copy of this form. Yeah, I couldn't really tell where that is, but we do see that he's doing some type of computer work or he is taking a class in computers. Either way, it may be something he's doing at Arizona University. Who knows? Yes.
There's a lot of different craziness going on in these universities too.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say that at the time that I was investigating the anthrax stuff, that there was indication of research, which I will get back to once I make a second round on this stuff. There was research being done on, I think, different strains of anthrax, and it was being held at Arizona University. And that was one of the reasons why I thought that Jack, and I want to say Hemphill, it was his name, was one of the individuals' name in the anthrax cases. His manuscript on anthrax and weaponizing anthrax had been reported stolen. And I want to think that that was out of Arizona University as well. So was all of this happening at the same time Jack was acting as a security guard where he'd have access to all these different locations because it's his job to keep things secure, which means he would have keys to get into these things, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, some very interesting.
Well, and they would trust him with a lot of different things.
Right. Here we have Gary. Now I'm a little confused. I threw these pictures in here. It says Gary Lee, Flagstaff, 1994. Now it's not impossible that Gary visited more than 1 year during summertime, but some of the date sequences that I have is April 7th of 1993. Gary comes to visit from Sacramento by motorcycle. On April 9th of 93, Jack and Nora go to the Grand Canyon with Gary. On Easter Sunday, April 11th of 1993, I need to go back and find those pictures because I'm pretty sure that's going to put him back in Texas during that time. He always seems to go home for Easter. And then April 12th, 1993, Gary leaves to go back to Sacramento. But then we see these pictures here, and this is the house in Flagstaff. And we can see the cream-colored van here in the left-hand side of the picture, which that was actually reported. That was a type of vehicle that was reported in one of the crimes that we've discussed. I don't know if the time frames are correct for this or not, but clearly Jack and Nora had that cream-colored van, and we got to see it in we looked, it said Metro City. We saw the cream-colored van, so maybe that was the same trip to the Grand Canyon. Either way, I need to go back and find the 1993 Easter pics, but we see he's still, traveling kind of all over the place and people coming to visit him. So I think that we made it through all 20 slides, you guys. I'm actually fairly impressed. Woo! Is there anything anybody would like to add or talk about? Because
that's Flagstaff, and it's pretty grim,
right?
That doesn't look like a nice place.
Yeah, and I'm gonna send you some stuff on the Arizona University. That's very interesting, the history, and I'm curious to go back to in my history of that research and see during that time frame what I can find.
Well, and it is it another coincidence that we had Stephen Dewhurst, professor out of Arizona University, take interest in Dennis and the Jack's Zodiac connection? He even tried to tie himself to it because he was in South Lake Tahoe purportedly during the time of the Donna Lass stuff. But he was also, I believe, what his technical ability was to be able to determine what is being seen in pictures that's not so very clear for others of us to pick up. So it was almost as if to say
he was an infiltrator.
That's kind of what it felt like, because he did run off with a lot of the negatives that Dennis had. He refused to give some of those pictures back to Dennis. He claimed he wanted to keep them for his book, but I've been through his book and I didn't see any of those negatives that Dennis was asking for back. So yeah, why did he come into Dennis's life? I guess I never really, stood up and asked, how did you come across him? How did you guys get involved with each other? But he had made several trips out here to California, and I was in his presence and had spoken with him on several occasions. And we had done some research together and looking through Jack's stuff. So I do know who Stephen Dewhurst is. But again, he's coming out of Arizona University. Is that a coincidence?
Yeah. The University of Northern Arizona is in Flagstaff. And Flagstaff is really close to the Grand Canyon, and it is kind of like a tourist town. There's the downtown has been, it's a historic with shops, and it's right along Route 66, it says. So I can see why rents might be high there.
Yeah. Well, and we had the Phillips 66 map with the Zodiac cipher with Mount Diablo circled over the top of it. So many connections back to Arizona. Constellation Mountains. I'm not sure if that one was in New Mexico or Arizona, but Dennis talked about a story Jack would tell that him and two other guys went into the mountains, but only 2 people walked out. So as if to say they killed one of the people that was with them, and the other 2 left.
Well, there's a lot of people that were missing in that area, in the canyon.
Well, and we have 2. So aside from the first beheading that we saw on November 8th, we're going to have another one while Jack is, currently living there in Arizona. Second murder, same type of style, I believe. Another beheading. We haven't gotten to it yet, but it does kind of scream that, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Are you still looking something up there, Nolan?
No, I'm just reading about Flagstaff. 1930, Pluto was discovered from Flagstaff.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and because it's on Route 66, that led it to it being a tourist town.
Gotcha. Well, that would and that would explain why it was so expensive, especially if it's close to the Grand Canyon. All right. Well, we
Yeah.
have our final seconds here as we time out. I want to thank you both for being here. We are doing a pre-record on Monday, so if you guys are interested, it'll be at 11 a.m. our time. So everybody have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday.
Okay.
Yep.
Maybe Monday. We'll see. I've got
All
my
right.
project to do Monday.
Okay.
I'll see you then,
Bye.
girl. Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Oh,